My name is Chris Jarvis. I'm the Executive Director of the RW Institute. This is a Listen Up show, and it's presented by Impact 2030 Council Network. We provide insights around how to do corporate citizenship better, but do it together. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get started with the Listen Up show. I have a few things to go over first. First, I want to say thank you to Venture to Impact for sponsoring the Listen Up show. They have been investing heavily to create meaningful skill-based volunteering opportunities. They can help you as a third party find the nonprofit, put together a really great program, and kind of provide you front end to back end, everything you need to support your skill-based employee volunteering program online or in person. So on today's show, we are talking about the Corporate Volunteering Giving and Grants Technology Review. But this year's edition will be released again in November of 2021. And it's in partnership with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Foundation for the Carolinas, and E4E Relief. This is a huge project, and we're going to talk about the scope of it. And today's show, I'm talking with the technical writer, Ilia Maor, who's on the call with us. Ilia's worked with us on the 2019 version. He's working with us on this version. It's bigger, it's more expansive. We've got some data to do some comparisons with, and I'm just really excited to have you on the show today, Ilia, and talk about how this technology review could be used by both companies and nonprofits in the process of finding the right kind of technological platforms to support your employee giving and volunteering program. Ilia, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. So a quick introduction, Ilia Maor. My current role, I'm working as a manager of HR technology and people analytics at York Region, which is a large municipality. My background is in technology procurement, evaluation, advisory, consulting, implementation. So my role in this project was really to help practitioners navigate the adventure of not only selecting a solution and implementing it and adopting it, but also how to go about generating some buy-in and consensus from leadership in order to proceed. What kind of things to look at when looking at technology, what procurement considerations there are when selecting tools, and then of course, once the tool is in place, how do you actually drive adoptions?
And that was really the genesis of the idea of doing this technology review. How do people find it? How do they get it? How do they use it? So the knowledge that we hope to present in this is open access, so it's free, anybody can download it. We do a number of presentations. We're hoping to build the field, address some of these outlier issues that don't normally come up because it's not a concentrated conversation or audience. There are 4 sections in the report. We're going to go through each of them here in a second, and we're going to talk about it. So the market overview we looked at in that report, you'll see market consolidation, commoditization of functionality, all-in-one versus best of breed, and the evolution and progress. We're going to look at 3 other sections quickly as well, but I want to park on this for a second, Ilia. Could you talk to us about the difference maybe we're seeing right now in terms of the data and feedback you're getting around market consolidation?
Yeah, there's been, consolidation in the market is continuing, and I would say that's in line with this industry maturing. It was interesting to see that the 3 or 4 major vendors we had mentioned in the 2019 version all had some degree of investment or acquisition related to them, whether it's America's Charities acquiring Costcast or Apex Funds acquiring cyber grants, or so major investment in some of these solutions, and then consolidation by the acquiring organizations and potential rebranding as well. So that's definitely going to continue and is continuing, and I would expect that the fact that we're seeing so many more solutions popping up in niche areas or best of breed areas is indicative of also that space becoming a bit more crowded for the all-in-one platforms.
So what does that mean for a CSR practitioner or a manager?
It could mean a lot of things. It could mean, from a vendor perspective, I think, or from a solution perspective, I think the perspective is always that now that you have this investment, you also have an opportunity to invest in certain areas of functionality or potentially go out and acquire solutions in areas that supplement your core capabilities to offer more to your clients. So that's definitely something that's a positive. On the flip side of that, if you have a vendor relationship and you have an account manager and you're familiar with a solution that now becomes acquired by somebody else, we have seen responses in the practitioner survey saying, we faced some disruption. We are now, we used to be, a relatively medium-sized fish in a medium-sized pond, and now we're a small fish in a very large pond, and we're not getting the amount of attention that we require or need. So we definitely hear some of that disruption and change in customer service, but there are also positives to that.
Yeah, because with the larger investments, you have larger staff and more employees and more specific lanes for support, that kind of thing, I suppose.
And interestingly as well, is larger vendors also they have the opportunity to create a larger community, so user groups, and then connect practitioners to other practitioners using the same platform. So it creates a bit more of a, or at least creates an opportunity for a community. And user groups is definitely something we've explored in this report as well.
Okay, so before we go on to what the phrase commoditization of functionality means and how that affects us, user groups. We're writing about that in this report. What is the user group? What kinds are they? And again, why should that matter to any of us?
So user groups are communities of practitioners that share some unifying characteristics. In some cases, they're grassroots groups that say, individuals or organizations that are running, let's say, giving or volunteering programs, and they want to share best practices. They want to share, their experience. They want to share some of the things they've done technology-wise. So we have kind of grassroots user groups related to that. Then we also have vendor-specific or vendor-facilitated user groups, which are essentially facilitated sessions or facilitated conferences that the particular vendor runs for their clients, providing an opportunity to talk about a variety of issues. Obviously, the grassroots ones are a bit less curated than the vendor-facilitated ones. But one of the questions we asked in the survey is about practitioner interest in participating in user groups, alongside the question of, are you currently involved in either vendor facilitated or grassroots user group? And overwhelmingly, the response has been, we may not be, but we would like to be if there was an opportunity. So I think that's an area of exploration for sure.
So there's the official, and then there's the guerrilla groups, right? The self-organizing kind of thing. Okay, that'll be. I can't wait to read more about that. Commoditization of functionality. What do we mean by that?
So this is a second report where we have kind of a baseline of capability that many vendors provide. So it's almost like what you would expect table stakes to be. So this is functionality that you kind of have to have in order to be a vendor in a particular area, whether it's grant making, giving, volunteering, and we are seeing some of that functionality becoming more of a commodity, becoming more harmonized across industry, where the differentiation is no longer in those areas. The differentiation is really in more niche functionality. For example, virtual volunteering was the big one in 2020 with obviously with COVID-19 forcing everybody to operate slightly differently.
Right. Okay, let me ask one last question about this slide. All-in-one versus best-in-breed. Why would I ever not just get one solution for grant making, volunteering, and employee giving? Why would anybody choose differently than that?
This is one of those questions where, if you go into your garage, you'll probably find a whole pile of different tools. And that's really the reason, is that yes, you have multi-tools that fit, can do a lot of different things. But the reality is that at this point, at least in our review, we haven't found one solution that can be all things for all people all the time. So, we have seen the parceling out of functionality where there are best of breed solutions that provide deeper capability than potentially an all-in-one platform can do. We've also seen, homegrown development and customization within organizations for that same reason, where people are saying, or practitioners are saying, look, our solution is great, we really love it, but for this one thing, it can't do it. So let's build something else, or let's go out and find something else.
Gotcha.
And we're going to see more of that the more we see consolidation with the major vendors.
Okay, great. I want to give everybody a sense of what they can expect to see in this report. We have some featured solutions in this one. A featured solution, we've broken them down by, they do volunteering, giving, grants, volunteering, giving, or one of the three. Okay, so you're going to be able to see which platforms fall into those. And then we're going to go over some basic functionality features. One of the things that we found was that when practitioners were sitting down to do an evaluation and a comparison, it was very hard to compare apples to apples because a lot of different things were called apples. It was an apple to them, and yeah, that logically made sense, but it is not exactly a comparison. So we spent a lot of time doing these comparisons, parsing out what exactly that means. Okay, so that's this and that's that. And then we don't rate anything. We just give you sort of a pie chart.
If you look at these pages, as a practitioner, if you are going into an RFP or if you are going into a requirements gathering exercise, what we've seen some practitioners do is actually use these pages to set up their categories of functionality. So to start kind of asking questions about those areas, what do we need in this area? What do we do for volunteer opportunity event search? What do we do for self-reporting? What do we do for exports? What do we do for workflows? That's another use we've seen for these particular spotlights, not necessarily to say, well, this is just the market landscape, but also understanding what functionality to expect.
Yeah. And then to look back at your own program and see if you've designed a program even to account for some of these categories or opportunities or programs. What would you say the biggest difference, Ilia, is between the spotlight and the other 40?
I think the level of detail is quite different. I mean, for the ones that we did deep dives with, I mean, they're quite a bit more detailed than the other ones.
Perfect. Okay, section 4. One of the things that you want to consider is how are employees going to use this, obviously. How are practitioners involved in the process of it? How are employees going to use it? And if you are not asking the question, if you're in an RP and you're not asking the question, where are the opportunities coming from? And they don't say something like, well, we have a volunteer match arrangement. You can subscribe to that data feed. Or they say, well, your employees are just going to go and find the opportunities and upload them. Put a pause on that and just account for how much work is going to be involved in the adoption stage. So let's go into some insights, see what we can find here. For many practitioners, the current solution is also their first. And 80% were unlikely to recommend it, which is interesting. And we've seen some changes, which is going to be interesting to follow over the years. And they're basically, I think things are improving in terms of the relationship between a provider, a solution provider, and the user. But there's still some work to be done, especially if, Ilia, maybe you could begin your comments with, what's a time frame from the point that somebody says, oh, we're allowed to go get a solution. Can we get that up and running in 3 months? Why and why not?
Well, I think, Chris, to your point, I think it starts before you get the go ahead, because getting the go ahead in itself is not a superficial exercise, right? So we know that, you know, in organization, one of the questions we asked in the practitioner survey is actually, how was your leadership involved in the process? And were they involved in just giving you the go ahead in terms of funding? Were they just saying, yeah, you can go and explore that? Or were they saying, we're going to be champions and ambassadors for this project? And depending on the answer there, you can also see the trickle down effect of the satisfaction with the solution at the end, right? If there's support, typically that results, you know, in better adoption, better satisfaction. If there's no support, less so. Typically between 18 and 24 months is the typical implementation. So, and that's split across the selection process, so the evaluation process. The organization is looking at between 2 and 4 solutions for the most part for detailed evaluations. There's obviously the legal process, and depending on your organization, I'm sure you know how long that can take. There's the actual procurement process itself, and then of course the implementation, the technical implementation. Greg and I believe Jerome both mentioned APIs as an example. So what does integration look like? What solutions are you actually integrating with? And are you doing your own integrations? Are you using a partner to build those integrations? And then finally also driving the communication and the adoption call for making sure that your users are actually subscribing and actually using the solution. We've seen most implementations take less than a year, and then procurement and selection vary from organization to organization. But typically 18 to 24 months is a pretty good guideline.
That seems excessively long. Is there anything that could be done to shorten that? Because we know from working with companies over that 2-year period, it is exhausting, and it's funny, the tool to serve the program becomes the focus of the program, it seems. Any advice on how that could be shortened? Because I know you're writing on this as well, but.
For sure, there are things to do to shorten the process. And, you know, we know that the requirements gathering activities take a long time to make sure that you understand what you're actually looking for and are able to articulate that in a way that the market understands, right? So using the right language, using the right terminology, getting the right functionality, confirming that your own internal capabilities, you know, will be able to support an implementation. But things like getting buy-in is a good example where you can reduce the time. Being prepared and resourced appropriately, that's easier said than done for an implementation. And also recognizing that the vendor can do it faster than you can, because they have done this many times before. They know exactly what needs to happen. You know, help them guide you.
Yeah, so that's good advice. Yeah, I may have missed it if you mentioned it. Cross-functional team.
We've seen cross-functional teams, and we asked the question about, well, how many people are involved? So an interesting thing about involvement in this entire process is that when asked about how likely practitioners are to recommend the solutions they currently have, the ones that participate in the implementation or in the selection and procurement process, are much more likely to recommend the solutions that they have than the ones that have not been involved. that's kind of an interesting observation about the complexity that exists within these solutions and the ownership of the process that helps you not just say, no, I hate the solution sucks, versus saying, no, we've been through the troubles, we've been through the pit of despair that happens in the middle of these activities, and we recognize where the faults are and where the advantages are. So cross-functional teams, always IT, typically the CSR groups or the corporate initiative groups, as well as the communication groups that are driving adoption.
Yeah, I think if you were able to pull together a team from legal, comms, marketing, just like one individual, HR, even to be able to access the data to say, we're the team over the next 18 months that's going to bring this from start to finish. But that cross-functional team, I think there's one little thing that people need to pay attention to. Find second or third stage volunteers. If you bring someone on the team who does not typically give or volunteer, they give transactionally like once a year, their investment in it is going to be from a completely different or maybe sterile point of view. It will be purely legal. What you want is somebody who believes in volunteering and giving as a lifestyle, or that's part of the value system, and is a lawyer. What they do at the company is almost secondary. You need somebody who understands what it's like to get out in the community, go to a soup kitchen and do the thing, or volunteer online. That kind of insight, combined with legal, combined with IT, combined with whatever, is eminently more helpful and will get you there much faster. With that cross-functional team, you can bring them right over since they've been a part of it. And as Ilia said, anybody who helps builds it will like it and be an ambassador for it. It's called the IKEA effect. It's a cognitive bias that comes to us. You can see it when you go to IKEA. If you build your IKEA furniture, it probably looks like crap because there's a lot of nuts and bolts left over and you didn't know what you were doing, but you love it. Why? Because you built it. Do you know why you love what you built? It's a biological imperative to look after your kids above all the other kids. If you build it, you love it. And that just applies to technology platforms as well. So getting that ambassador group of second or third stage volunteer givers with those skill sets and then move them over into adoption is a cool thing. So having said all of that, Ilia, anything you want to say before we wrap up our call today?
Oh, this has been a nice little teaser, but I maybe biasedly so I say that there's a lot of interesting insights in there for practitioners. Even if you have been through the process before, I think you'll find it interesting, and of course we learn from it every time we go through it.
Perfect. Yeah, we're very proud of this report, and we expect it to significantly and positively impact the field, innovation, and drive down costs and time. And along those lines, the RW Institute sends out a weekly roundup, not of our stuff, but of everything that we've come across that could be of interest in terms of online presentations, webinars, and even surveys where you can get your voice in. You can sign up for that. Next month, we're going to be talking about how to apply behavioral insights to or cognitive science to practice employee volunteering and giving. The project's called Nudge the Good, a very cool project. If you want to know what this means for the future, this could revolutionize the way we work with employees to encourage pro-social behavior in the workplace across the board, let alone employee giving and volunteering. That's it. Thank you for being here. We'll see you then next month, okay? Thanks, everyone.